And the last speaker for the day is our very own Sankhadeep Roy. He is going to be talking about authentication and managing authenticated screens with the AWS Amplify and React Navigation V5. So, Sankhadeep, is he here?
Hey, yeah,
Hey, man, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible, absolutely clear, crystal clear. A little bit
Great.
about Sankhadeep. He is an engineering manager with us at GeekyAnts, which makes him a big deal. He is also a football fanatic, and he is in love with Liverpool FC. And if given the chance to buy tickets, he might even lay his life down for them.
Oh,
Um,
great.
anyway, so Sankadeep, I am going to let you take this show away and present whatever you have on your mind today.
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
best. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Vijay. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. Hey, guys. Yeah. So great talks by the speakers previous to me, Toby, Sameep. I loved how he explained how easy Redux Toolkit makes it for us. Even I've been wanting to experiment with Redux Toolkit for a long time now, but yeah, now that I've seen how it actually works, I might actually give it a try. And then Alex made to order app. I think I like the way he separated the UI logic from the actual logic of the app, so you can just have one UI and you can make multiple apps just using the same UI. So yeah, that's wonderful. And yeah, of course, Vinay, the animation. I've been a fan of animations, and I quite like the way he did it and the explanation. I liked it. So yeah. Anyway, so I'll start off with my presentation today. I'm sharing my screen. You guys just let me know if that goes well. Okay, so I hope you guys can see my screen. I just have one screen there. So yeah, I'll be speaking about authentication using AWS Amplify. And like once we are done with the authentication part, we'll also go into React Navigation a bit, React Navigation v5, which was launched not too long ago. And then we'll see how we do the authenticated screens. And in there are a few changes to what we had in version 4. So yeah, a brief introduction about me. I am Sankhadeep Roy. Like the Vijay said, I'm a software engineer. I still call myself a software engineer. They have a different name for it, but yeah, I believe I'm a software engineer. Other than that, I have been of late. I've been working mostly with React Web, not much React Native. And in my previous projects, I've been using AWS a lot, and I like it. So I thought, okay, well, why not give it a spin with React Native and see how well it does. So there are a couple of services in AWS which will really blow your mind. The one which I like most are AppSync and DynamoDB, as in, because these are the ones I've used the most. But then AppSync just creates all the GraphQL queries for you, so you can just like describe your schema, and then the queries mutations are made for you. You can just import the queries and make the call. So yeah, that's how easy it is. And for Dynamo, it's used for storing whatever data you like fetch from, or maybe you store some data. That's Dynamo. That's what Dynamo does for you. But what I am going to speak today about is Cognito. So AWS Cognito, or Amazon Cognito as they like to call it, is one second. It's not going. Yeah, is what they use for handling authentication. Using Cognito, you can restrict users, you can log users in there. There's a dashboard for Cognito where you can have multiple settings, and then you can configure the user permissions and whatnot. So yeah, let's look at the definition, official definition, what Cognito is. So it says Amazon Cognito lets you add users, sign up, sign in, and access control to your web and mobile apps, and support sign in with social identity providers. Yeah, you can also have social sign in with the Cognito as well, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and whatnot. A couple of more as well. So yeah, okay. So how is Amplify Auth or Cognito Auth different than the than the usual authentication that we do in our apps, right? So I'm not sure if this is too small, but you should be able to read it. So this is how we usually do, how I used to do previously for my apps. So we'll have services. We have one, say, for login service, one for sign up service, and then we import them into our login files. And then, say, for signing up a user, we just call the service, and then if that's succeeded, then yeah, the user is signed up. And then to log the user in, we call the login service, which returns a promise. So then yeah, after we get the logged in user, we probably need to store the user's authorization tokens, right? Because this is what is going to be important as we move ahead, because whenever we log in a user and the next time we boot the app up, we don't want the user to be stuck on the login screen again, right? That is when we want the user to actually be redirected directly to the home screen or whatever screen you want to, right? So this is why this line here is important, as in to we save it to our sync storage, and then we probably have to navigate to like a home page or whatever page you want to. I'm calling it app stack, but yeah, whatever stack you have in your app. So these are the steps we used to follow earlier for doing earlier, as in we still do it now if we are not using AWS. But yeah, so these are the steps which we do. So how different is Cognito Auth, right? In the front end, it's not too difficult, it's not too different, I would say, because it's the same. You just need to import auth from AWS Amplify. Earlier you had to import two services, sign in and sign up. So here you can just import auth from AWS Amplify and then just call auth.signup. That's all that you need to do. Auth.signup, and it will of course you need to pass in the params of user, password, attributes. If you're just sending the email, then just email. If you also need phone number, it takes an alternate email as well, whatever you want to. But then yeah, these are the various params you can pass. So yeah, apart from that, we also have this login. Yeah, we also have, one second, just a minute. Apart from that, we have login call, which was pretty similar to the one which we did earlier. It says we can log the user in saying await auth.signin, and then after that you'll notice that here we are not storing it to the local storage anymore. So this is the reason for doing this, is that we no longer need to do this. Cognito does that for us, so that's what is pretty useful for us. So the same goes for signing a user out. If we have to sign a user out, we just need to call auth.signout, and that will sign me out. So I do not need to clear my async storage or local storage if you're on the web. So that is what I really like. So apart from just these some Cognito features, there are some other Cognito features as well. So let's just speak about what I discussed. So auth class has functions. We have sign up, sign in, sign out. No need to save this tokens to async storage, which I spoke about. So Cognito takes care of it. Apart from authentication, the auth class also has useful helpers. By useful helpers, I mean you can change the password. If you can pass in two passwords, the old password and the new password, and it will change the password for you. Confirm sign up, if you have two-factor authentication in your app, so you can maybe give the phone number, it will send you an OTP, and then using that OTP you can confirm the user. So that is what confirm sign up does. And then we have auth.current authenticated user. This is for getting the current state of the user, if whether the user is logged in or not. So this is something which we're going to use later. And there are tons of more helper utility helpers. So if you go to the authentication documentation from AWS, you will see that there are plenty of util functions that you can use, which will be helpful for us. So yeah, apart from that, there are a few Cognito settings. So these are the Cognito settings that you'll see on the dashboard. There are tons of settings, but I'm just going to talk about a couple which I used. So yeah, you can have you can define how the user would sign in. So whether the user will sign in with his email, or whether you want the user to sign in with his phone number. So user can have an email respond as username. Also, user can sign in with both the email and phone number. So yeah, there are plenty of settings. So when you check the dashboard, you'll probably see that there are tons of settings that you can change. So yeah, apart from that, you also have this setting for configuring the password strength, as in whether you want it to be, whether I wanted to require phone numbers, rather uppercase letters, lowercase letters, a minimum length, and whatnot. So this is also something which Cognito provides us as a setting. So if you do that, then you can go to the dashboard, and then you can also restrict users. There are lots of this, but yeah, I'm just going to speak about these as these are the ones which I have like really worked at. So yeah, so now that we have really like looked at how Cognito handles the authentication and how we log in and stuff, so let's look at how we do this in the front end. As in, once it comes to our app, we log the user in, then we want to move the user to the home page, right, after they've logged in. So let's talk about navigation. This is what we'll speak about. So let's look at how we handled authentication in React Navigation version 4 and before. I don't really remember about what we had before version 4, but yeah, in version 4, this is something which we used to do. So we had something like auth stack and an app stack. So an auth stack would ideally be your login screen and your sign up screen, and maybe forgot password screen, where you show the users the screens which he needs to like fill in or authenticate himself before moving into the real app. The real app would be something like a product screen or whatever. So yeah, this is how we used to do it. As in, we had an auth stack, we had an app stack, and we also had authentication loading, right? So what authentication loading did was that this is the screen we used to load up first. As in, this is the screen that will load, that will boot up first, and there we'll check whether the user is signed in or not. So how do we do that? Since when we sign a user in or log a user in, we store their token to the async storage, right? So then we, inside this component, we check whether the async storage has the user token or not, and then based on whether the user token is present, we either redirect him to the application stack or the authentication stack. So I think something like this, yeah. So we check whether the user token is present in the async storage. If it is, then we navigate the user to the app stack, as in all the home pages and whatever we have. Otherwise, we take him to the auth stack. Right. So this is how we used to handle navigation till version 4. But then with version 5, the switch navigator is no longer there. So the doc says, with React Navigation version 5, we can dynamically define and alter the screen definitions of a navigator, which makes the switch navigator unnecessary. Excuse me, I need some water. So yeah, what this means is that we can define our we can define our route separately. By separately, I mean we can have our app stack defined separate and auth stack defined separate, but inside the same navigator. So this is the stack navigator that we have, and based on whether the user is logged in or not, we can show the app stack that we have here or the auth stack. So currently in this example, the auth stack only has one screen, which is the sign-in screen, and the app stack which have home and settings. So yeah, so basically it is being the stack that is currently being shown to the user, whether it's an app stack or whether it's the real stack or the authentication stack, will be determined by this value, right? So this is what they mean by the pattern can now be defined declaratively, as in if you just change this value, based on this value, the navigator knows which screen to show. So earlier, like we in our previous example, we saw that we had to log the user in and then navigation that navigate. So that is a step we no longer need here. So as long as we can access this value and change this value from any of our screens, then we are going to render the stack based on whatever this value is, right? So but then there's a problem with this. The problem is that the is logged in value would be changed from various screens, right? So if you're on sign in screen, you will be after you sign the user in, you'll need to change it. Or maybe once you're logged in inside the app, you might need to change it from your profile screen, or if you have a logout button in the header, you want to log the user out. So yeah, you might need to change it from various screens. So this value here should be at a state higher than this component, right? So the React Navigation doc suggests using something like the React context for doing it. And so yeah, that's what I have done as well. So what we need to do is we need to have a context, suppose something like an auth context, and then have this value is logged in, and then have another function for changing the is logged in value. And then we can pass this function to all our components which are dealing with login in or login out, and then based on that we can just log the user in or out, right? So yeah, let's take a look. So this is what the auth context. Yeah, I was saying that we have two values, is signed in and set is signed in. Is signed in is for checking whether the user is logged in or not, and set is signed in is the function that we call to change that value. So okay, this is the auth context provider that we have. So what we need to do is have the entire app, as in, or at least the components that need this context to be wrapped inside it. So what I have done here, okay, where is it? Yeah, so that's what I've done. I have wrapped the app, that is the navigator. I'll show you the code in a while. I've got it open. So I realized later that I missed a couple of slides, but yeah, no worries. I've got this open here as well. So I'll be able to show you guys that as well. But yeah, so what we are doing here is that in our navigation file, whenever the navigation boots up, as in the file boots up, we check whether the user is authenticated or not. So earlier, how we used to do it was we used to make a call to async storage to see whether the token is stored or not, and based on whether the token is there, we navigate the user to the relevant stack, right? But here using AWS, all we need to do is call this function, that is current authenticated user. So if this call succeeds, that means that the user is currently logged in. So based on that, I just set our value, our signed in value, to true, right? So like we discussed, if we can change it from anywhere in our app, and then the navigation will take care of it. We do not want to navigate to any specific screen or such. So yeah, that's what it does. This is how we can, like, on booting our app, this is how we check whether the user is logged in or not, right? So how do we do it when you're logging in, right? So this is for checking whether the user is logged in or not. But suppose we are in the home screen now, as in our login screen. So from there also we need to log the user in, right? So this is how we do it. Like we saw earlier, we call auth.signin with our params, and then after it succeeds, we just say set is signed in to true. And set is signed in is a value which we is a function which we are getting from the auth context that we had created, right? So yeah, this is how it does it. So I'll just show you the app that I have right now in the code, that so that it makes a bit more sense. So yeah, this is basically the app navigation file that I have. Oh, it's gonna let me get rid of this. So yeah, is signed in is here, and then whether the user is signed in or not, I show the login screen. Other than that, I show the home and the create screen, and I'm checking the user session. I call get authenticated user, and then I'm up, in addition to just setting the user status, whether the user is signed in or not, I also set a couple of data there, as in the user's username and email. That is because I later require this in my app. So it depends whether you want it or not. So let me just show you how this works. So currently I'm logged out, and when I do a refresh, I'm still in the logged out state. And then let me just log in. 6. Okay, so this has logged me in. So now I'm in the logged in state, right? So now what happened was that in the login screen, I called auth.signin, and then after it got succeeded, I saved the username and email. So the username I'm seeing here is coming from the context that I saved, the set user, and then I also set sign in to true. So now what happens is that if I refresh my app, it should directly take me to the home page. Yes, that's what it did, right? Because then it it checked here whether I was signed in or not, and then it set it to true, and then yeah, that's how it handled it. But yeah, if you see, when I reload for a brief while, you actually see the login screen before we get navigated to here. That is because initially the value of is signed in is set to false. So what ideally we would like to do is that when we make a call, we can have a loader or the splash screen that will show up before this gets resolved, and then based on the response, we can either show the login screen or the logged out screen, right? So also, some of you might have a question whether, like, if we are logged in, can we go back to the login screen, like by just clicking the back button, right? So let me show you how that works. So suppose this is my post screen, right, where we can edit or create posts. So if I swipe back, I can come to the previous screen. But then if I swipe back from here, it no longer does it. So yeah, the login screen is completely removed from our stack at this state. So let me try to log out and see how that works. I just logged out, and then I try to go back. It doesn't work for me, and I refresh, and I'm still in the logged out page, right? So yeah, that is how I did it. I don't know, like some of you might have a different way of doing it, but yeah, I pretty much like this implementation, and for me it's pretty simple. The docs also have a way of doing it with context, but they were using use reducer, which I really did not need for my example here. But yeah, if some of you actually think that that is a better implementation and there are some added advantages of that, please let me know. I'll be eager to know what I missed here. So yeah, I think that should be it. If any of you guys want a link to this app or uh, to this repo, actually I've created a tutorial for this where I speak about, like, where I explain from scratch as in adding AWS Amplify to a React Native app with all the API GraphQL requests. And also basically here's this app that you see. 1 second. Yeah, so basically this app, so here you can create a new post and then edit posts based on the owner. So if you're the owner, then only you can edit this post and all that. So yeah, AWS using AppSync and DynamoDB really made it easy for me. So yeah, let me know if any of you guys want access to this code. I'll be pushing it to GitHub in a couple of days. So yeah, that should do it. So let me see if there are any more slides. No more slides. Thank God. So yeah, this is my Twitter handle if you want to follow me, and my GitHub username is this. That's where you'll find the repository if you're interested. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free.
Thank you, Sankhadeep, for
Yeah.
the
Hey.
presentation. We have one question from just another gamer. He is asking, how do
Okay.
you think router flux holds up in comparison to navigation v5?
I think router flux also internally uses React navigation. I'm not exactly sure which version it is, V5 or V4. I'm not really sure. But then it depends on, like, what API you're more comfortable with. If you're more comfortable with the router Flux API, you can go ahead with it, because performance-wise, I really don't think there will be a difference, because under the hood, it's basically the same implementation. So yeah, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Right. And people are also requesting for the GitHub repo. So I think you'll be posting it on your Twitter. So everybody who
Yes,
wants it,
yes,
go
yes.
follow him on Twitter and you'll get it there. And we will also be posting
Yeah.
the GitHub repo link in the description here.